Hello! Welcome to another episode of Mega Manga Monday. Today we are focusing on Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 185. I don't think we got a title on this one. Oh, yeah, it is. Bye bye. So we're out of the colonies. We're actually very out of the colonies. This was a really weird chapter, and I got a lot to say about it. But I am Jason Hahn. I'm a writer for ScreenRant.com. I happen to write a lot of video game news, and I've started to dabble into some features and reviews, which is pretty exciting. But I also happen to be a huge manga fan. Lots of series I'm very passionate about. I love reading them week to week, and I happen to get a couple other ScreenRant buddies interested as well, who are also very into comics and manga, and they're here to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen today. Ben, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Ben. I've been with Screen Rant for about half a year almost now. And I write articles about manga, of course, and also DC and Marvel comics. So if you're interested in those, definitely check those out. But yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen is one of my modern favorites, and yeah, this chapter was. There's a lot to discuss for this chapter, so
Well,
I'm excited to dive into it.
oh yeah, this chapter went places, and it could mean all kinds of things. And but yes, how about you, Steven? You want to introduce yourself, and then
Yeah,
we can dive in.
yeah. My name's Steven. I've been writing for the comic side of Screen Rant for a little over a year now. Yeah, I'm mostly writing about manga and all that goodness, but also delving into other topics, especially Sonic lore and Beast Wars. But yeah, other things as well. But manga is my real passion here. So I'm really excited to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen 185. Well, last we left 184. We had Panda exploring one of these colony areas that we just left a fight with Charles and Hikari. And that seemed to come to some sort of conclusion, but we instantly jumped over to see what Panda was doing, and he gave us some excellent comedic relief before getting absolutely obliterated by one of the strongest sorcerers we've seen in a long time. And I mean obliterated. The chapter ended with him like exploding in half after just unveiling some new form that we haven't really gotten to see in action. And I was anxious to see things pick up from there. And as soon as I opened up this chapter, that's not what we got. We got a chapter that is literally about 85%. Seems like it was maybe drawn by somebody else. I'm not 100% sure, but it's like an adorable. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's definitely not a fight between jujitsu sorcerers that I was expecting. We got some sort of, I don't know, is it a flashback or is it what's going on like in Panda's mental realm? I don't know. There's so many animes that I've watched that play with those sorts of ideas that it could literally be anything. But we kind of got an introduction to Panda's siblings. He's got a gorilla sibling, and he's got a triceratops sibling, and I mean,
Another dad.
yeah, and a glasses wearing mustached ghost dad.
Yeah, question mark?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
well, I think the dad we knew about as well because it does look like the principal, to me at least.
Does it look like him?
He's
Oh,
got the glasses.
oh, that's true. Like I would have like expected like the like goatee or something. But yeah,
or
I
the
mean,
hair.
I mean, it could have been different though. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
and that's kind of the thing.
That's true.
I've read it a couple times now, and I can't.
Hmm.
My main thing is I believe it is a flashback to Panda when he was younger, and I mean that would insinuate that there was these other sentient puppets that were also being groomed or trained.
Well,
The reason I think it's that rather than a mental thing of what's going on in his head right now is the the other kids. We have the raccoon and the fox or the cat who are like teasing Panda, And if it was a thing going on in his head right now, then that would mean that he also has a raccoon and a fox form. But that's my thought. What about you guys?
Sounds
I
like Ben wanted to say something. Yeah. Go
yeah
ahead, Ben.
yeah
Yeah.
because I actually think like, and it took me a while to come up with this sort of theory. I think it's kind of both. I think the first part is a flashback, and then the part where the gorilla and Triceratops are leaving is like the current time,
Hmm.
and they're sort of being they're sort of just dying, because the principal's dead as well, and he's the one who I think
Oh,
is bringing
Oh,
them
that's
into the
interesting. Okay, I
afterlife.
like that.
okay.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I don't even want to say my idea. That's great.
Well, and about the flashback, I don't think it's necessarily like actually of when Panda was a young panda. I think it's of when his cores were alive.
Yeah, that makes
Because
sense.
the cores, like as we learned before, were like dead children.
Yeah,
like
right.
so this sort of seems like, you know, all Panda's cores were a family, but something must have happened and they all died. Um, and
So
then got
if these were all
turned into things.
children, then the principal had access to a child Triceratops?
Well, no, it's just like they were kids, like they were regular kids, and then
Oh,
they
okay.
became sort of the versions of Panda. Um, and so like Panda wasn't actually a panda, but he's in a panda puppet,
Right, right.
and so they each manifest as some sort of animal.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I don't know. It kind of they do the whole connection thing with the ball. Unless you're saying like the first couple pages where Panda and his ape brother are like punching each other. And oh my god, just some of these panels are just too cute. Like I love the,
Yeah,
I love,
Kawaii!
I love the panel of the Triceratops like saying like, "Go on, you can try fighting back sometimes," and then you see like this little kid panda just like swing at the air a couple times, and then the gorilla just punches him in the side of the head. And, it's funny. It makes me smile, and this chapter did a lot of the same things that the last chapter did, where the first chunks of it are like, "Oh, this is so fun and cute. Oh man, I love it," and then the next series of events is a giant bloody pile of Panda and whatever's left of him. And he still says a cool one liner, even though he is just a severed head at this point. And then, yeah, Hikari shows up. But that's all later. Just, again, Gege's art style, though, like, I know I said that the first chunk of this felt like it was written by somebody or drawn by somebody else, but just the panels of like the gorilla realizing that they're done and then they need to say goodbye, and he just starts bawling his eyes out, and then you get the couple panels of Panda and the gorilla bawling their eyes out, and then a whale. We get a big old panel of a whale just coming over the horizon. So I'm like, what does that
yeah.
mean?
I don't know what the whale means. That's the one thing
I got
that
nothing.
that's the one thing that I'm like, I think I've got to figure out. Well, what is this whale like?
It made me think, and this is kind of getting into my video game background, but when they first showed a trailer for Metal Gear Solid 5, there was like a good year where it was just like a really weird out there trailer that made no sense, and they actually called it something else. Like they were keeping it secret that it was Metal Gear Solid, and it's just like a really weird trippy trailer, and the end of it ends with like this big giant like fire whale erupting from the earth or something, and that's how the trailer ends, and you're like, what did that mean? And then the game comes out, and I don't think the whale was even in the game. But that's what I thought about with this, and I'm almost like, is that like an inside joke amongst like Japanese content creators where they're just like, just if we really want to throw people off, we're just going to throw a big whale in at the end. And it worked.
Well, and I think too, what also adds to the whole confusion of everything is that, and I'm trying to think if it's happened in previous chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen or with Gege's style, but I know that in a lot of different manga, it's a flashback because rather than having like you have the panels and then around the panels it's black.
Oh yeah, or
And so
grade or something.
yeah, grayed out, and there is none of that. Like, I mean, there are dark panels later on, but that's because it takes place in a darker area. So that's why I was really confused at the beginning. Like, okay, this is clearly a flashback or a version of a flashback, but it's not being represented as such, and which also adds the confusion of that transition that Ben was saying is probably takes part in the present. I mean, I'm almost wondering why like that must have been done on purpose, just because I believe that's a style that Gege has done himself for past
I
for past flashbacks. So I mean, it
think
just
so.
adds to the whole mystery of it all. Yeah.
Yeah. The one time I can think of where he didn't really do it is like in the Hidden Armory flashback. Like that wasn't all in. At least
Yeah,
I'm
that
pretty
darker
sure it
grayed
wasn't
out.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one was that? For I totally know what you're talking about, but for the
The
audience.
the whole flashback arc where it focuses on Gojo and
Oh, right. Yeah.
Geto.
Oh, okay.
Like it basically the first arc, the second season of Jujutsu Kaisen should be adapting.
Yeah.
The Fuji stuff.
Yeah, the stuff with the star vessel and things like that.
And yeah,
Yeah.
Tengen, like they're yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it makes sense why he wouldn't do that because I mean, like that whole arc was a massive flashback.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But it's still
really-
really,
I think-
a really good one.
Yeah. Oh man,
Oh,
I
yeah.
I am actually. I kind of wish that was introduced sooner. I don't know how or why, but I love it.
I was hoping it was going to be in the movie.
Yeah, like I just love it when mangaka like they just kind of like take a step back and they introduce like a history, which kind of it just strengthens the whole story. It's like we're not just focusing on the story in the present day. This is actually continuance of what happened of something that happened earlier, and it just makes the whole story much more interesting. It's much larger than we initially thought.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. Another series that's really good about that is called One Piece. It's very enjoyable. But there's a lot of context behind that one, so we won't dive into that too much. But yeah, yeah, and
So-
that's the thing about. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I just want to say I just checked back because I know that like he's done a flashback recently for Charles Bernard for his sort of backstory when he was first introduced, and while on like the very first page there's kind of gray in the background because it's a color page.
Mhm.
For most of the flashback it's just regular white background.
so
Um,
I guess it's a normal style then, at least for him.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
So it doesn't actually mean anything in this instance. Yeah. Okay.
well, I don't know. I would take that as that this isn't necessarily like a flashback that happened years ago. That this is all inner monologue kind of stuff, or inner. I don't know. How would you describe it? Like inner, not exactly inner monologue, but say when Naruto's talking to his nine-tailed fox spirit, like that's not an inner monologue. It's
an inner dialogue.
inner dialogue. Yeah, you know what? I guess that's the closest way to go. So yeah, I think that's more credence to this being, an inner dialogue or an introspective bit inside of Panda while he's getting ripped apart by this new Jujutsu sorcerer.
I mean, it was perfect. I mean, I love how this was represented. I mean, sometimes, someone's past is introduced randomly before an actual big story happens, and this was probably positioned at the perfect time, which gets you even more invested. I mean, even though like you already love Panda, obviously, myself included, but the fact that Panda was just ripped apart, and then we get this story, just adds more context and drives the story forward. So I think it was perfectly situated anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, we got to look at what this would add to the story if that's the
Right,
case.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I think this is alluding to. I mean, Panda may have just been horribly like nerfed. Like he may have just lost his gorilla form and this new other form that we only had teased. And
Yeah.
I don't know what Panda's going to look like with these two major parts of his personality essentially gone, because it's not necessarily like one of those stones is Panda. Panda is like the culmination of all three of those stones. Am I wrong?
Well, Panda is, and I mean, like the other stones are kind of like different personalities, almost. I
Oh,
think.
okay. I wasn't sure if
Um,
they like took from each of the stones to craft this panda personality, or if just one of those stones is Panda and the other two are completely different souls. I wasn't sure if they like
yeah,
combined or not.
I'm pretty sure one is Panda, and the other two look like they've just been, destroyed. At
Yeah.
least they were in his body, and Panda's is in his head, maybe. Um, but I don't know.
Well, also, I can't remember. It's been a while since I've watched the anime or read the part of the manga, but when Panda is like first really introduced in his fight against Mekamaru, um, I know it's established that he can like move uh, the cursed jewels or whatever you want to call them in his body. He can like send fake signals to make them think that they're in certain places, and he can move them around possibly. But I don't remember if Mekamaru like managed to destroy one of them, because I feel like there was that bit of tension at one point. But that would mean that he can fix his cores. So I mean, if this is us seeing those cores destroyed, maybe it's not the end of those cores. I don't
I
know.
I don't remember Mekamaru destroying one of the cores, but I could just be misremembering.
Yeah, I'd have to look
Um,
back. It was a long time ago.
yeah.
But yeah, and I'm kind of noticing I've got the chapter up in front of me here too, but it's on like the third page of this chapter, but it's after the whole punchy flashback humor fun stuff. And then we get just one panel of the three, it almost looks like three memorial jars or like
Yeah.
cremation jars. So that's definitely, making me draw the comparison that these are the children's souls that are in Panda, of the gorilla, Triceratops, and Panda. But it's just such a like Gege is just so methodical with where he's putting this one panel,
Mm.
because it's right in between these two things, and it's kind of leading to what you were saying, Ben, that these are actually two separate
Yeah,
moments in time.
while you were saying that, and because I mean, and you mentioned the urns. Yeah, I'm now almost 100% behind Ben's idea because it makes sense. Like right after he gets blown up, we their souls or whatever are leaving Panda. I think that
Mm.
His
is
life is flashing before his eyes.
yeah, I think that is a very well thought out answer, and I think I'm 100% behind you, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the
Makes a lot
whale,
of sense.
though.
What about
What's
the
the
whale, though?
whale? It doesn't fit.
Maybe
The one thing
there's,
that doesn't fit.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's like some Japanese like mythology thing that all like great stories end with a whale like coming up from the ocean or something. Maybe there's like some cultural context we're missing from that. We'd have to look it up a little bit more.
Mm.
But I think anytime if I ever make like a short film or something, there's gonna be just random scenes of a whale just crusting from a horizon, and that'll be the transition. You guys will get it. But
And maybe, a Japanese audience will get it too.
yeah,
Uh,
it's like this video is doing really well, only in Japan though.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean that kind of covers the flashback, I suppose. I mean, we had the sorrowful gorilla feel bad and want to buy the ball that he watched his panda little brother throw into the water, and yeah, I'm not really sure if there's a lot more we can really glean from that, other than just the masterful character building of building these relationships. Because I mean, Gege got my eyes moist with just the first like 8 pages of this Oh, well, not 8 pages, 14 pages. He told this amazingly compelling story that we're instantly informed of Panda's other personalities, I guess is the way we want to say it, and having me definitely feel the loss of if these things are really gone. That was all amazingly established in this small amount of bit. And then we only got like 4 pages of new stuff, and I didn't hate it. Like, especially after talking about it with you guys, the first time I read it, I was just like, "Oh, this is strange and interesting." And then by the end of the chapter, I was like, "Okay, I think I kind of get it." But I mean, yeah, this Gege Gege knows how to tell a story, and I'm very excited to see. I think it's safe to say Panda is out of the fight, but
You never know. He could be like the Black Knight in Monty Python.
That's a false
He
wound.
could
yeah.
bite his enemy's knees.
Your body's gone. No, it isn't.
I don't. I actually. I mean, it means all just conjecture at this point. But I'm
Yeah.
almost wanting Panda to stay like this. I mean, because it's just kind of gruesome, and it adds another level to his character. I mean, just having him like just be a floating head for like the remainder of the series. I think that would
Oh no.
like I'm almost really like digging that idea the more I think about it.
Oh no, I think we wouldn't be getting all that extra Panda backstory that we just got in this chapter if this was the end of Panda.
Oh no, it's not the end. Like,
Oh
like
right,
he's
right.
still
This
alive.
this is just
Yeah.
going into my point. I think I almost think he's gonna get some sort of upgraded body or something, because Panda has gotten his ass handed to him in these last few fights that he's all had, and I'm almost wondering if this is just alluding to he's going to get like a new body and hopefully be more powerful for whatever the last couple arcs of this series are. Because you know what, I think we've seen what a fighting panda can do, and it's gotta it's gotta evolve from that. It's gotta get cooler and bigger and better for the last chunk of this story. Because I mean, I know we've discussed in previous discussions, but this isn't the final arc or anything like that. We have no idea how long this series is going to go, but I think it's safe to say that we have at least another huge arc ahead of us after all this. And
Well, I know, like,
it'd be a real shame if this is the end of Panda's fighting days.
well, I know that Gege hasn't said like when it will end, but he is saying that, like, he hasn't said that this is the last arc or the last saga, but he is saying that it is coming to a close. Like, it's rather than this being a long thing, he has said that he's getting closer to the end.
Oh, okay.
But Oda has been saying that for the past 20 years. So I don't necessarily believe mangaka when they're like, "Oh yeah, this thing's ending soon." Yeah.
Yeah, I see an end in sight. Like these guys see infinity in front of them, so it's yeah, I think we have at least one more huge arc after all this stuff wraps up.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm there for it. I'm enjoying all the new characters. Gege has, as I said earlier in this discussion, like, he's a master storyteller. He was able to tell like almost like a whole manga's worth of emotional storytelling in this one chapter before we even got to like what's happening in the real world. So like, yeah, more Gege. I'll do what you want to do, buddy. But yeah, so I guess I that's my thoughts on Panda. I loved this introspective look. I kind of always like that, like, naive, pure character in anime and mangas, and Panda just is that in this series. He's definitely the most like pure character in, I think, the entire roster, really. So I'm very interested to see. I'd be very disappointed if this was the end for Panda, but I think we have more of him in the future. I just curious how they're gonna fix him now that Principal's gone. Yeah, I think that they're just gonna have to get his cores and put him in a new body or something. So
I do have a quick question though,
uh,
just based on how it could have gone. Like, cause I'm just a real big fan of, Ben's reading. And if that is actually the case, I'm wondering if it would have been more effective if that transition from past to present was made more clearer. Like, 'cause sometimes I like not in this series, but I sometimes have a problem of when things are made overly ambiguous and like just creating mystery for the sake of mystery, and sometimes like it's just stronger to just make things clear. And I think if Ben's reading is completely correct, which I'm really hoping that it is, it making if Gege made that clearer, that this chapter would have been much more stronger upon first reading. I'm just wondering what your takes are on that, like if I'm reading too much into it, or so I'm just interested on your thoughts
Yeah.
about that.
No,
Yeah,
I
go
definitely
ahead.
feel, I definitely feel like there's definitely merit to that criticism. Because I'm also someone who's like, yeah, I like ambiguity, just like the next guy, but sometimes you're just like, just tell us what you're doing, okay? Just why throw this non sequitur in here or something, or why do this and just be like overly confusing? Just tell us what you're doing, and I'm sure it would be fine. But
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, I do think that by not explaining exactly what's going on, this sort of lulls you into a false sense of like, you know, oh, this is so cute.
Mm.
Like, this is
Oh,
a fun little like flashback and stuff like that. Or is it a flashback? I don't know. It's just cute. And then it just sort of blindsides you out of nowhere with like, we're leaving, we're like, you'll never see him again or whatever. And
Oh yeah,
it's just, I
oh,
think it makes it more tragic
the emotional
without.
punch is so much
oh,
heavier because of that transition.
oh yeah, like especially like with the first few ones. Like yeah, no, like I mean, if like the hit would have been much more intense if okay, so the way it was originally presented, like the way I took it, because I was reading it quickly and I didn't take time to really digest it. Like that, like this had all happened like a while ago. That Panda had been separated from the gorilla Triceratops a while ago. And while that is massively like, oh, that's sad, that's unfortunate. Like if we knew this was happening now, or if it was made more clearer that it was happening now, then the blow would be, at least for me, it would have been much more like, oh my god, this is happening now. So
Hmm.
it's like we have, rather than this all being a flashback, this all happened in the past. Like one, we get the flashback where he's getting beaten up when as a kid. That's sad. But then there's also a current day punch in the face. So it's kind of like more of a blow. If I mean, does that make sense? I mean, that's what's where I'm
Yeah.
coming
It
from.
does. I think it really just goes with preference. Like with me
Yeah, yeah, that's
personally,
really what
I'm a
it is.
huge fan of like Dark Souls games because they don't necessarily like flat out tell you the story. It's all
Mhm.
just like you putting it together. So everything in those games is like built to pretty much like almost keep you entertained at face value. But then if you're
Mhm.
interested in it, then you can dive deeper into it and get even more enjoyment out of it. And I kind of get the same interpretation with this transition. Like
Mhm.
the way Gege has crafted this, the first chunk of this chapter, it puts you into that, what Ben just said, like a false sense of security almost, where you're like, okay, this is weird, but it's compelling. I like it. And by the end of that, you're caring and you're legitimately like asking questions of like, what's going on? Is Panda okay? At the end of this story, I mean, even before you jump ahead to the bloody pulp panel of Panda, in the flashback story, you're like, oh no, is Panda going to be okay? He's being separated from his friends. And then you get the panel of Panda and the gorilla crying. And then literally at your lowest of that point, you turn the page and then you see the bloody pile of Panda. So it's just like, oh my God. Like it's that dramatic punch. And I don't feel like it would have been as dramatic if we knew exactly like if it, let's say because one way I could see how Gege would explain that this is going right now is if he was like cutting to other panels of like Panda getting eviscerated these between these like lovely child flashback panels, whatever you want to call them. But then that I feel like would have taken the focus away from it.
That is true. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if you did it that way, that wouldn't have worked for sure.
It's also one of those things where like I feel like some moments just even if you don't understand what's happening in the moment, when you figure it out later and it clicks, it just hits you in that moment when you figure it out
Yeah.
like so much harder.
Because it's
So
like reading a good story. You're like, why are they doing this? Why? What kind of puzzle piece is this going to fit into later? And then the puzzle reveals itself, and you're like, oh, that makes sense. And some people like that more than others. Sorry to cut you off, Ben.
yeah, no. I mean that's exactly what I'm saying. So
Oh, perfect.
yeah. Took
Well,
the
I think
words
that's
right
great.
out
Yeah,
of my
no,
mouth.
no. Thanks for answering my question. That was, yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, I'm very excited to see Hikari show up, and this
Yeah.
is kind of leaning into my theory that I had in the last discussion that Charles and Hikari finished their fight, and I think that they're working together. And what we know of Charles's power, this feels perfectly lined up with that because the best thing that they could do is get a little bit of this new sorcerer's blood to Charles, and they'd be able to read their movements. So I think Hikari is acting as a decoy right now to kind of suss out this person's powers because he's obviously the better fighter. But yeah, I think Charles is hiding in the wings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's how I see this going.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of went. I'm always going the more morbid routes. But
He's dead.
yeah. Well, no, not that he's dead, but I just like the idea because I mean, it's happened in other manga as well. I mean, it's a well used trope when done correctly, like where you don't see the end of a fight, especially when a character you especially care about is defeated. And it also goes back to my whole thing where I don't want to see all of Hikari's power yet. I like it being slowly, brought to the forefront. And by because in the previous chapter or 2 chapters ago, I don't remember, but like when Hikari and Charles Bernard were fighting, like it was clear that the fight was going to go to the next level, but then it cut to the whole Panda thing. So I mean, by cutting it out, something did definitely happen. We just don't know what. And by seeing Hikari here, it just came to it made me think, okay, good. Like Hikari, went to a whole other level, revealed his true power that we haven't seen yet, defeated Charles, and now he's here. And it kind of just that's how I read it, at least. Like Charles isn't gone, like he's not dead or anything, but it was just like Hikari's true terrifying form or power defeated him, and that's why he's here.
Oh, and he is here. He made an entrance.
He is here.
Yeah.
It's a great way to introduce a character. Like, I'm here.
Well, and I mean, also, I feel like this is worth noting. We haven't really seen Hikari do any like major feats of strength. We've only been told by like Gojo that he is somebody that is absolutely worth keeping an eye on, essentially. And the last bit we saw of Hikari, he had gotten the jackpot and then did one move against Charles. And now we're cutting to, we don't know necessarily how long in between this is happening and the fight with Charles happened. But I think if this is happening like one after another, I almost wonder if this is Hikari in his jackpot like form right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
possible.
can see
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Because he's literally dive bombing and destroying a shipping container with his landing. So that's kind of strong, guys. And I love his his line. Panda, you look like you've lost some weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has. So yeah, I'm very excited. Honestly, like his intro here just this small, like this very small couple, these two panels of Hikari in this chapter made me like his character a lot more. Because so far, he's just been kind of one of my favorite expressions. He's a question mark wrapped within an enigma, placed within a box of mystery.
Ooh, I like that.
I got it from a reality TV show years ago. But he just instantly jumps in, and this could be the most powerful form we have of him. We don't know, but it's just that cocky, fun character dialogue between him and the severed head of Panda. What a sentence! And
Yeah, yeah, and it definitely creates like, I mean, he's not like a hero, but I mean
No.
it definitely mirrors like the whole, trope from Dragon Ball where, Goku is gone the whole time, everyone's failing and dying, and
Yeah.
then bam, Goku's here to save the day. Like it kind of has that same feel, and like you're saying, like he was just that like a character we didn't really know about. Like he was there type of thing, but now he's like the centerpiece and almost given the heroic figure's introduction, which kind of just adds more layer to him. Yeah, it
Yes.
was just done perfectly. Love it, love it all.
Well, yeah, and I almost feel like that's another benefit of most of this chapter being the inner dialogue of Panda, I guess is the best way you want to say it, because I think we've kind of all agreed and decided that it's not necessarily a flashback. Well, I don't know. We're kind of going back and forth on that. We think part of it's a flashback and part of it is the inner monologue of him losing his siblings. But what I'm trying to say is like I feel like that also made Hikari's entrance that much more prominent because we're still like kind of reeling from the oh my god, Panda's a bloody pile. The suspense is high. Is he going to be okay? And then yeah, as you said, Gege did it perfectly. The hero's entrance right when we needed him, and yeah, I think that this next fight's going to be pretty cool. But I think for the first time, I think Hikari is going to be on the defensive because ever since we've known him, he's been the one holding all the cards. I mean, when he met Yuji, he's in his own element, and
He hasn't met Yuji yet, right?
oh well, didn't him?
Hikari. I thought you were talking about Kashima. Sorry.
No, Kashimo. Thank you. I couldn't remember Kashimo's name, but no,
you're
yeah,
completely
Kashimo
right.
is actively hunting Hikari. No, not.
Yeah.
Oh man.
He's actively hunting Yuji, so that's why I was
Yes.
confused for a second because I thought I got mixed up about who exactly you were talking about.
Yeah, no, I do the same
my
thing, buddy. I was listening back to some podcasts actually, and I was just like, oh man, I totally mixed up that person's name. So now it seems like I'm talking about this other person. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I think that we're gonna see Hikari, kind of play it a little bit more careful, and I exactly what Steven was saying. I think it's gonna give us the opportunity to see more of Hikari's abilities. And from everything that we've seen of Kishimo, I think he's definitely going to need to pull some good rolls to win this one.
And what's crazy though, like it'll be a big turning point for both characters, just because Hikari and Kishimo, like they are up until this moment, they have basically been like, yeah, you were talking about it too, like they've been in control, like they've always been in fights where they had the upper hand, like. But now we're going to see at least one of them take the initiative or be in the front. So I mean, it's a turning point for both characters. Both are mysterious. Both we haven't really seen their true powers, but each time they've used their powers, it's been just like smacks the person to the side.
Yeah,
like
they've been
like
fighting somebody
not even
woefully
trying.
unprepared.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to put them in a more vulnerable state than we've ever seen them. So it's interesting. I'm almost hoping that uh, Kishimo or whatever his name is the one left on top. Like if Hikari is the one has the advantage, and it makes sense though, because like Hikari should have the advantage because he's said that he's gonna be like the next Gojo, like he has that possibility. But I it always just hurts a bit like when we see like a big bad getting easily or just a villain getting easily defeated. Like I know it's a completely other universe, but it just always like switching to Star Wars really quickly. Like it just always killed me in Episode 3, so Revenge of the Sith, just seeing Yoda fighting Palpatine. Like
Yeah.
before then, Palpatine was just untouchable. Like he was just like the
Mm.
guy who was always in charge. Like he was, no one ever smacked him around. And then just seeing him getting smacked around, it just like kind of like shattered my view of him. And
Oh yeah.
that's what this could be. So I'm kind of like torn. Like I want to see one of them become vulnerable, and I want it to happen, but I don't want it to happen. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I could honestly see
Yeah.
it going either way. Like at first glance, I would think that we're about to see Kishimo just like push Hikari against a wall, and then it's going to cause Charles to intervene, um, or
I love your love for Charles, man.
oh well, I just think like they've established so much of his character that it would be an absolute waste if that's all we got of Charles. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm just
I
absolutely
think
banking on him being a major part of this.
I think it could just be gay trolling. Like every time he's done the sort of game participant flashback to introduce a character, they've been a major character.
Like the
I think it'd
lawyer
be
guy.
hilarious. Yeah, the lawyer guy
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
big character. Like the comedian is a major character. It seems like. Um, I think it would be hilarious if Gege introduces the manga, the sort of flashback for Charles, and then it's just like he's just knocked out in one fight and never shows up again.
Oh, that'd be
Um,
wild. Like,
I wouldn't I want to see more of Charles too, but I think it would be also just be hilarious if Gege just like subverted expectations like that.
oh boy,
I don't
I
think he's
hate that
doing
term
that.
now. We wanted to mess with expectations ever since Game of Thrones. I hate that that word, subvert expectations.
Yeah, and well, I'm kind of with you too, though, Jason. Just because I mean, you mentioned Game of Thrones. Like, I just always have a problem of just killing off or just getting rid of characters randomly. Like, even though like it has that shock value, but once you get rid of a character, like you can, like the people who are left behind will always be suffering, but they will move on,
Hmm.
and that connection is gone. Like once you lose a person, that dynamic is completely gone. Like there will be like flashbacks or memories, but everything that they could have done in real time is just completely lost. Like I'm just of the camp where you keep your characters and you make them suffer. Like again, my morbid personality, but like that's just where I always come from. Like I get the whole like let's troll everyone. I'm going to introduce a character and then kill him off. It's like, yeah, I mean that definitely has its merits every now and then, but I I hate
Yeah,
it when it happens. It's just
and
so
listen,
unfortunate. It's like,
I don't think that Gege is doing that with Charles. I'm just bringing it up as a possibility
oh yeah, oh
because
yeah, oh
it
no,
is
Yeah.
definitely
definitely,
something
oh
that
definitely, yeah,
I could see him doing as sort of because he is a troll. Like he,
maybe that's why
we've
I
seen
like him
that.
so much.
Yeah, we've seen that time and time again. So
Uh,
uh, I could see him doing that, but
yeah, I mean, it kind of because we've seen plenty of characters that were sort of introduced and then they were killed or taken out, like Reggie Star. We didn't get a full on
Yeah,
background of like what Reggie Star's job is, what his hopes and dreams are, all that stuff. We got all that with Charles. So I just feel like so much work was put into adding Charles into this, and I think it's just a very interesting idea to have a frustrated mangaka in
yeah,
a in a manga, a Shonen Jump manga, because it just kind of gives Gege the avenue to uh, to say and do whatever he wants about the industry, essentially. Because
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I think it's just a very interesting dynamic that I really hope that we're going to get more of, and with what's been established with Kishimo's powers too, it just seems like they're going to need somebody who can see a little bit ahead of time because Kishimo has been advertised as being way too fast and incredibly powerful. So
yeah. Well, the thing is, even if you can see what Kashima is about to do, their attack is like undodgeable because it's just based on electric charges and stuff, and
mhm.
not even if you move out of the way, it's just gonna curve to hit you. So
Yeah, and I'm excited to get more in depth with what those powers are and how they work. I really think, I mean, I would think that Kishimo is about to fight Hikari, um, but I almost wonder if Hikari is going to be on the offensive because if he is still enjoying the lasting effects of his jackpot version, then maybe it's going to be like, okay, this form only lasts for like another minute, so I really need to end this quick, and that'll get tension high if that's the case, and then he runs out of time, and then they have to figure out how to beat this this powerful character. But I'm excited to see more abilities. I'm almost wondering too, like if Hikari's current power up gives him any defensive abilities too. So I almost wonder if if he gets hit with something fatal, if it'll just heal up because he's in his jackpot form or something like that. But yeah, what do you guys hope will happen next in Jujutsu Kaisen 186?
I think for me, I'm also just excited to see this sort of clash, and I'm excited from the perspective of we've got the character with the most complicated powers in the series fighting the character with the simplest powers, or maybe not the simplest powers in the series, but one of the simplest sort of ideas for a power in the series.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that sort of contrast and see what Gege does with that sort of fight. Um, so I'm just looking forward to it. Whether Hikari's in, jackpot mode or not, I think it's going to be a really cool fight. And yeah, I hope we find out what jackpot mode or jackpots do. 'Cause I think it's the perfect time to introduce what they do in this fight. So
Well, yeah, I think we just saw a little bit of it because
yeah, and if that's the case, we'll find out like probably the start of next chapter. Like,
yeah.
here's what jackpot mode is. But
Or maybe we'll get an introspective conversation within the shipping container that just got flattened. And,
yeah, the
and
shipping
That's
container
awesome.
remembers back to its.
it'll be 10 pages of the shipping container being built and put with its fellow shipping containers and them weathering storms together and then smash. That's the end.
Yeah, and then you see the other shipping containers like get broken in the ensuing fight. Just like a member of the shipping container family dying
What is
one at a
happening right
time.
now?
And then the crane picks them up and says, it's time to go.
Yeah. I would be all for that sort of thing. That would be great.
This just turns into like the rest of Jujutsu Kaisen is told by
Inanimate
like
object.
inanimate objects history, and then the last 2 pages are moving the story along. Oh man, guys, we need to make our own manga. It'll
Exactly.
introducing the Mega Manga Mondays manga.
Shipping wars.
Shipping Wars. I think that's already taken. I don't know.
Darn.
But how about you, Steven? What would you like to see happen next?
So I mean, like I was mentioning, before, this is like making two very strong characters, putting them in a vulnerable state for the first time. I'm wondering if it seems like I'm forgetting his name, the new guy, the guy other than Hikari,
Kishimo.
Kashimo?
Kashimo.
Yes.
Kashimo,
Ben, you're good at names.
Yeah, I mean, I had to scroll down into the comments to just double check if that was the name.
But yeah, so like so it seems like Kashimo's main directive right now, like even though like they have the most points, it's finding out where Sukuna is. I'm almost wondering if he might actually flee the scene for that reason. I don't know. I mean, it just seems like that finding out about Sukuna is more important at this moment than fighting. I could be completely wrong, but I could see that happening.
I actually completely disagree because the motivation that we've been presented for finding Sukuna is that Kashimo is like, man, everyone here is a weak fighter. I need a strong fighter. Where's Sukuna? So I actually feel like it wouldn't make sense for them to find a strong fighter and be like, no, I have to flee to find Sukuna. Because they'll have gotten what they wanted.
with
Uh,
Hikari.
yeah.
Uh, well, I don't know, because we haven't had it flat out said. I kind of threw out my theory that Sukuna, he was the king of the curses. He was the most powerful one of his time, and many consider ever. I think it's fair to say that he probably had like a small network of followers, or sort of the manga antagonist has the exact amount of henchmen as we have as protagonists, so then they can all pair off and fight in the epic final battles. And I'm not yet convinced that Kishimo is not on the same side as Sukuna. So they
Like
might.
they could be. I mean, I'm just judging this based off of their first appearance when
Oh
they
yeah,
first like stated why they're looking for Sukuna.
yeah,
So,
oh yeah.
I mean, they could be allies, and maybe Kashimo's like, I need to find Sukuna because Sukuna will know where the good fighters are. Uh, but like, I sort of interpreted that first like appearance of Kashimo,
Hmm.
where like way back when like the culling game, they were first strategizing about the culling game. Um, I sort of interpreted that as like, that classic character archetype in manga where it's like, man, I'm just such a good fighter. No one can provide me a worthy challenge. And then they
Hmm.
meet the protagonist and they're like, oh ho, finally we've
Yeah,
got someone on my level.
it
Um,
could absolutely be that. I see that being likely too. I was just kind of throwing my theory out too, because I think that could be a possibility as well. But yeah, I don't see Kishimo or Kashimo instantly like leaving, because they still don't know where Sukuna is. Hikari knows.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like there's something about it. Like I want, I just because like so much mystery has been, and swelling up around his character. It would be interesting, like that. It's just more than just finding the strongest. Like there's another ulterior motive. Like it just seems like that this would be the perfect time to just because like there's been fight after fight after fight in the calling game. It would be a good break to have that particular change, especially like I just like I don't want everyone's powers to come out yet. Like we have a good momentum going, and by just having everyone duke it out, it would just puts everything out in the open, and I feel like there needs to be something more than just constant fighting. But that's just me.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean the thing is, I think that I personally view the calling game arc as just a big expositional arc, and like the fights are good, and like we get good moments, but I think this is largely just exposition to set up the players in the final sort of big arc that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't actually mind if these sorts of powers are being revealed because it just sort of sets up the pieces for like what's to come. Like I think that a lot of the fights in the Shibuya arc, while they did introduce characters with like new powers that we hadn't seen before, like I think the final fight between like Mahito and Yuji and Todo better because we knew exactly what these characters could do. We've
Hmm.
seen it sort of in action before.
Hmm.
Um, And while there were like big twists in that fight and characters unlocked new abilities and things like that, I think it like hit so hard because like we knew exactly their capabilities going in.
Hmm.
And so I am not actually that upset if we actually learn what all these characters can do. That way later on when they're fighting, we'll be like, ooh, this is going to be an interesting matchup because we know
Yeah.
that Hikari can do this, this, and this, and we know that Kashimo can do this, this, and this, and um, so that's my philosophy on it. But I also get
I agree.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I also get that like, it's taking away all the mystery. uh,
Well, it's almost
That can be.
taking what a lot of people say is like the worst arc of My Hero Academia, the Class 1A versus 1B fight. I feel like that was a lot of it was just that exposition of like revealing all their powers, so then it can have a major payoff later on. Jujutsu Kaisen, I think, is I agree with you, Ben. I think they're doing the same thing, but they're just doing it so much more effectively than My Hero
Yeah.
Academia did it.
And I think that's because there are stakes to these, right?
Yes.
Like
Oh yeah.
people can die in these fights, whereas in that class 1A, 1B fight, it's like it's just like a class sort of, fun
Exercise.
activity.
Yeah.
Of course, like one class is going to lose, one class is going to win, but it's not like if one class loses, all the students are going to be executed. It's,
Yeah, I
What is
mean,
this, Naruto?
like yeah, I mean, like with My Hero, I think what would have made it work, what would have made it work, and why the series has been kind of failing in this regard is that I saw it as like whenever you're going to pair two different classes together, the point, like especially in the training exercise, the point is to flesh out their characters more. And that was one of the major problems with that particular arc and in the whole My Hero Academia world is that outside the main characters, the other classmates are just kind of filler, and that would have been a perfect opportunity to kind of flesh them. That's what I thought when I was first reading the manga, that was going to be this the 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 whole arc's purpose was to go more into those each classmate as they tried to work together, et cetera, et cetera. But the one really cool thing about that, and we're going way off base, but that I loved about it was that it was the first time Bakugo was actually fighting as a team member, and it goes back and it gave purpose to the whole what was it, the festival arc where they're all playing as a band. Like it was the first time where Bakugo was actually like, let's be a team. Like let's do this together. I'm gonna be the drummer. Let's do it. Like it was the first time you actually see Bakugo working with others, and that like so that was a big stepping stone for him. But then right afterwards, there was the training arc, and that was when he was actually working together with his other classmates, and that was like a huge turning point for his kid. Like that was the big moment for me. Like I was actually really excited during that arc because I was like, dude, Bakugo is actually fighting alongside. He's listening to
Yeah,
what his like classmates are saying.
he's
Like it was a
growing.
huge moment for him. Yeah, he's actually growing,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah,
Um,
he's maybe for me. We're going to be recording a My Hero Academia discussion in a couple hours anyway. I'm a big fan of some of the things that they do, but I feel like they only really care about the story of maybe half a
yeah,
dozen characters in that show, where they've introduced more than 100 characters. They seem to only really have the character arcs and everything really well done and really well thought out for maybe half a dozen of those characters, compared to Jujutsu Kaisen, where we're spending so much time like we haven't been with the series main character Yuji in a long time, and nobody's
yeah,
bothered by it because all
yeah.
of these other characters are so interesting, and Gege has done such a wonderful job of establishing them all in this arc. So
Yeah, and I will say this is like getting back to like earlier in the discussion. I do agree with Steven that like killing off characters is often like the lesser way to go because like seeing them suffer is so much more interesting. But this series sort of does show one of the benefits of being willing to kill your characters because
yeah,
we're not all like, what's Nanami doing now? Why aren't they bringing Nanami into the series? Or like, what's the rest of the Zenin clan doing now? Like, why aren't they getting involved? They're a big family, right?
mhm.
So like, I think it can be useful for a story to like know when it's done with certain parts of itself,
Yeah.
and
right.
then just like add a level of finality to that,
Well,
just
I,
for readers to be sort of like more invested in what's going on in the present and not like what's going on with characters who have served their role basically.
well, and also it's just what it lends the story, what their death lends to the story, and I,
Yes.
I love that we
Yeah.
keep on coming back to Game of Thrones because I feel like Game of Thrones has done both really, really well with that and really bad with that.
Mm.
But they just knew when to kill off a character for the most emotional and, biggest, most exciting story elements. And they.
Except Joffrey.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
like
Joffrey. I mean,
every single time though he was on screen, like I was scared. Like I was like,
mm,
what twisted, creepy
Oh,
out
yeah.
like
Just
is he gonna
anything could
do?
have happened. Yeah.
And then as soon as he's gone, it's like that element was gone.
And
Like
then they
it's
bring
I
in somebody worse.
yeah.
who?
Listen. I read
Oh
the
right,
books.
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's
I didn't
that
watch
too.
the
Yeah.
show. I read the books. Although I have
Oh,
seen some of the
nice.
scenes with Joffrey like done in the show, and the actor
Oh,
just
man.
kills it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
will say
He's
I really liked Joffrey's death, and I think it came at a good time in the story. But I this isn't. I could dive
spoilers.
into that sort of thing for a while.
Yeah, we could. I wouldn't mind doing a Game of Thrones discussion someday, but
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of
I
that series. Even though it didn't end very well, we still got many seasons of just pinnacle television. And
and as a Song of Ice and Fire reader, I can interject with just saying, oh well, in the books, you know.
yeah, I've actually audiobooked I think two and a half of them, and yeah, they're very different. And I'm actually really curious. I don't think I've gotten to Joffrey's death in the books.
Yeah, that's like book three, I think.
Okay,
And,
because
I hope that's not a spoiler because you know it's happening. So.
well, yeah. I mean, as soon as you meet that character, you're like, this kid's gotta die. This kid's just
Yeah.
gotta die. And
Oh,
yeah, but highly recommend it. I might I'm gonna use that for my recommendations this episode. Check out Game of Thrones. It's a little series that you may have heard of. It's very good. Both book and if you haven't watched the show, Ben, watch the show, man.
I feel like there's no reason to now,
Oh no,
knowing that it
you've
it
got
ends terrible.
right, but
I
you've got 4 or 5, especially as a book reader. They apparently did a wonderful job of adapting the first like couple books. It's just when they ran out of books there that's when it starts to go downhill. But it's perfect acting, perfect choreography, perfect all that stuff. So I mean, definitely worth checking out. And anyway, any more thoughts on Jujutsu Kaisen 185 before we wrap things up, guys?
Yeah, I mean it's a minor thing, but I just wanted to mention that, and I'm not even sure if this is a reference, but if it is a reference, bravo! Like the Lord of the Flies reference with Panda's head on a stick being like the pig head on a stick.
Didn't
That's
think
just what
about
I
that.
thought of when reading it. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. I thought it was funny. Um, also because I mean, maybe this can be my recommendation. I'm a fan of the comic Fables, which is coming back now, which is pretty crazy. And that also had like a reference to this sort of like pig head on a stick as well. So, um, yeah, it's to see in things.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that, but it's been a long time since I've read Lord of the Flies. Uh, but
Yeah,
Steven, any oh, sorry, Ben.
I was just gonna say, and I think the only reason I picked up on it is because like it featured in Fables much more heavily. So, uh,
Okay. Steven, any final thoughts on the chapter, bud?
oh no, not on the chapter. No, I think
Oh,
we pretty much
yeah.
yeah, we had a good conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Thanks for your time today, guys. This has been Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 185, Mega Manga Mondays discussion. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I am Jason Hahn, and I would love it if you are into other manga series like One Piece, My Hero Academia, Dragon Ball Super, Boruto. We've got all kinds of other series that we talk about. So check out the Mega Manga Mondays podcast on Spotify. We got a Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at Manga Mondays. I have to think about it every time. Somebody already took Mega Manga Mondays for some reason. But yeah, find us on Twitter at Manga Mondays.
Manga
There we go. And yeah, I also do. If you like my voice and the things that I say, check out
Right, that's good.
yeah, check out my YouTube channel, Honzy and Friends. I stream and do Let's Play videos with friends. We play cool games and try to make each other laugh. It's a good time, so check it out. And also, of course, ScreenRant.com. Check it out for all of your movie news, gaming news, and of course, comic news, Marvel, manga, DC, all kinds of good stuff. But Ben, you wanna plug something, bud?
Yeah. Well, first I'll do my recommendation, I guess. I mean, I mentioned Fables, and that is a very fun American comic series that basically, if you like this sort of thing, like, what if fairy tales, but in the modern world, then I think you'd probably enjoy it.
Oh, cool.
Um,
And that's an
Very fun
American
series.
series?
Yeah, it was originally on like DC's Vertigo label. Like that's how old it is to keep you context. So it started like late '90s, early 2000s probably. And it has been on break for a while, but and I think people thought it was done, but now they're continuing the story, and I haven't checked out the new stuff yet, but saying like the old stuff, it will be a fun time. So very good series, recommend. Um, and then for my plugs, I also have a YouTube channel. It's very different from this one, but it's basically called YGO from Zero, and it's taking looks at historical formats of the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game and sort of just diving into them and like how to play them and what decks are good, things like that. And I should be releasing a new video for that today. I mean, depending
Ooh.
on when this video comes out, this podcast episode comes out. But um, yeah, but so check it out if that's something that interests you. And if you just like my voice and the things that I say. So,
Yeah, thanks, man. Also, if you want to give your first and last name, so if people want to check out your
oh
Screen
yes,
Rant articles, they can easily look you up.
yes, Benjamin Sockol. Sockol spelled like the footwear plus OL. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and off the top of your head, any specific articles that you think people should definitely check out that you've done
Yeah,
recently?
I wrote an article about Mineta in My Hero Academia in
Yeah,
the
it
second
went.
chapter.
Oh, good.
Um, and I don't want to spoil. Like the article is called like My Hero Academia reveals a side of Mineta that fans don't want to see, or something like that. I won't spoil what side that is, but it's a very fun article. So.
I'm so glad they
Yeah,
went with it. I'm
yeah,
so
no,
glad.
I'm glad I got to write it. It was a fun time. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. On ScreenRant.com, comics section. Steven, how about
Yep.
you, buddy?
Yeah. So actually, I usually recommend stuff that I've been reading, but this next, what I'm going to recommend now, it's not really recommendation, but I was recommended a manga. So on Twitter, I got into a conversation with someone, Cliche Chad at Cliche Chad. We're now DMing right now. Has a Luffy face as their profile pic, but basically they were posting photos from Shonen Jump manga called Golden Kamui, and it was something that I've been avoiding. I just wasn't really interested in reading, but I won't share what the screenshots were. But I am a fan of morbidness, so I was very intrigued by what I saw, and so I'm probably going to start reading it now. But yeah, the person, what they were saying, Cliche Chad, was got me pretty interested. So I'm going to be checking that out soon. So maybe for those of you who 18 plus readers would like to check it out, I would suggest it.
And what's it called again?
Golden Kamui.
Golden
It's been
Kamuy.
going on for a
Okay.
while in Shonen Jump. Like it's like in the 200s.
Wow. Okay.
But it's
Hit chapter 300 recently.
oh, is it 300? Is it? Yeah, it's up
I
that
don't
way.
know.
Wow.
I don't actually follow the series. I've heard great things about it though, but
Yeah, I'd never really heard anything about, like, this was the first time I saw something like what this guy was posting. I was like, whoa, what is this?
No, no, it's
So,
250. Yeah, you're right. It's
yeah.
200s. Yeah.
Okay, and you say that's on Shonen Jump?
Yep. Yeah. It only comes out every now and then. Like the last time something came out was March 1st.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Gotcha,
but
gotcha. Well, yeah, check that out if that sounds like your cup of tea. Uh, but yeah, we got all kinds of good mangas coming out. I know today we've got an episode of Dragon Ball Super, Boruto, this one, and My Hero Academia all coming out. So definitely check those out if those are any other series that you're into. But that'll about wrap up this episode of Mega Manga Monday. Thanks again for your time today, guys. I look forward to the next discussion, and hope you have a good day.